Hello and welcome to Celebrating Simple Life. I'm Kimberly and I've been planning parties and incredible events for the past 15 years. I'm passionate about connecting people, making gatherings purposeful, and making the most out of every moment. Join me as we learn together how to find joy, celebrate the simple things in life, use events to grow your business, entertain with purpose, and have a whole lot of fun along the way. Cheers to Celebrating Simple Life. The continued support, ratings, reviews, and sharing screenshots of podcast episodes that were engaging for you on your Instagram stories, tagging friends that you think should hear the episode too, makes me so happy as I strive to connect stories of business and life in the Celebrating Simple Life community of amazing individuals. Today on Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast, I'm chatting with Marlese, owner of Bobe Beauty. Deeply schooled in the European art and science of aromatherapy, she has trained in Italian and Vietnamese methods of facial reflexology for therapeutics and beauty. Her passion for indulging the senses has led her to gather skills and experiences with one clear intention: to bring exclusive wellness discoveries from around the world right here to Saskatoon. Most recently, continued studies in the fields of aromatherapy and botanical perfumery have lured her to train with world-class educators and master craftspeople in New York City and France. Marley's provides individualized solutions tailored to each client's unique needs. The heart of her practice is her array of tools and ingredients, making each individualized treatment unique to each person. I have personally experienced and enjoyed her reflexology facials a few times, and I honestly cannot tell you enough how relaxing and amazing her treatments are. I am so excited for you to hear our conversation today. Marlese is an absolute gem. She is so knowledgeable about her field and she has grown a beautiful business. So tune in today and find out all about the amazing things that she is doing at Bobe Beauty. Hello, Marlese. How are you?
Great, thank you. How about you?
Good. I am so excited to chat with you. You have been somebody that I have been wanting to have on the podcast for a while, and I'm so glad that we're finally making this work.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay! So you and I haven't known each other for all that long, but we kind of met through an event, and I saw you with your business set up at a pop-up shopping thing, and from there, like the rest is just kind of history. You just sort of like get to know people then after you have conversations with them. And now we've run into each other in a few different facets. And besides knowing you as that way, I also get to be your client and I come and have your services and I can't wait for you to describe this. I'm getting ahead of myself here. So I would love to know just a little bit about your background and how you started the business that you're in today and what got you to this point.
Oh, for sure. I'd be remiss if I didn't go back to 2005, which is when I started my very first business.
And what was your very first business?
It was called Bobe. So the accent on the E was different. It was a straight line. And it was an acronym for Beyond Ordinary Bath Essentials.
Oh, cool. I like that.
So it was custom formulated bath and body products. They were all made to order. And it was in a variety of fragrances and flavors, if it was a lip balm. There was a menu of between 50 and 100 things that a person could choose from to have their product specially made for them.
And did you make all of this yourself?
I did, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you even a further back question then. How did you get the idea or the knowledge or the know-how to... Because I know a lot of listeners are listening to this and thinking, I have a creative idea. I have something that I have been dreaming of. And it seems like it maybe is just like a hobby or something to do. I would love for it to be a business. But how do you go from being like, wow, this is a hobby to I'm going to actually launch this out to the world? What gave you the idea? Like, were you practicing on making these types of products for yourself and using them for yourself and then deciding, oh, hey, I actually have like a cool line of products here?
Not really, actually. So I had never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I never had that aspiration. I was actually not in a great place mental health-wise. It was probably the lowest I've ever been. And I lived in a basement apartment So it's just picture this dark space.
Especially at this time of year, right? When it just feels dark more than it feels light. And that is very, very challenging mentally for myself too. Like light and just your surroundings make a huge impact, don't they?
Yeah. And it was in the middle of the night. I'll never forget this. It was just surreal. I sat up in bed and I just had these ideas coming out. And it was just like this light bulb moment happened. And I had to get a piece of paper and just start writing stuff down. And from that piece of paper, one of the ideas that I wrote down was this Bath and Body products. And I just started playing around with it for myself at that point.
Yeah.
But it very quickly escalated into a business, which I had never intended.
That is so interesting. I love that you were able to just listen to your gut. You're having these like ideas all come out, which even having ideas come out is like a may or may not, are we actually going to act on those ideas, right?
Yeah.
I love that you took that and were like, you know what do I have to lose?
Exactly.
Right? Wow, that's great. So you start making these things and you're like, okay, I'm onto something. These are actually like products that I feel comfortable putting out to the world.
Yeah.
And then what?
So it just evolved over a 5-year period. So I did it for 5 years until I became pregnant with my daughter.
And did you just sell, so you said did you have them in retailers or did you sell it online?
I had one retailer in Saskatoon, but it was more through my own website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was a different online space at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, looking back, it's really interesting, even the marketing of it and how you got the product out to share about it.
It's funny how quickly that evolves and changes, hey? And you
It's
just
not
sort of
that long ago.
Ever have to be like on our toes.
Yeah.
Wow. So then you had your daughter, and were you still, like, while you're now taking care of new baby, are we still working on these products, or did you take a break, or how did you?
I took a break. So when I found out I was pregnant, I just felt this inner knowing that I just wanted to take a break from it. And I was working with synthetic fragrances at that point. And so during that period, I took a break, but there was still something inside that you want to be creative. You want to be doing, once you've been bitten by that bug,
Yeah.
you can't get rid of it.
You are forever tainted. Yeah.
But that was actually my introduction to aromatherapy. So I started to research during that time. Rather than the doing part, I started more learning.
And did you feel like having a baby and learning things about taking care of your baby was part of that knowledge process for you in the aromatherapy side of things, of wanting things to be more, I guess, natural and holistic because you now have a little human
Absolutely.
that you're raising?
Yeah, so I wanted the best for her. Mm-hmm. And so that was really what spurred that on.
Interesting.
So that was my introduction into aromatherapy, because I was looking for ways that I could replace synthetic fragrance with something that was natural. So that was my first introduction to it. I didn't understand or really know anything about the therapeutic values of essential oils. I've always loved scent in general. And yeah, it was a year later that I started looking into formal training for aromatherapy.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's great. So I love that, because I feel like often it's just sort of like making that decision of, I'm just going to learn more. I don't need to know everything about this right now, but I need to know just one thing and like take it from there, right? I like that you moved forward on that, because sometimes I think it's easy to feel stuck in where we are, and it feels like you're supposed to have all figured out before you take one step forward in a direction, right?
Yeah.
And then you just kind of feel stuck and you're like, okay, well, we're just going to do nothing because I don't know what step to take.
Yeah.
And I like that sometimes it is like formal training or reading more or researching more or talking to somebody that's been in it before, and that's all that it needs to kind of shift your brain a little bit into, is this the direction that I should be going, or isn't it? Because then you know more.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So so then you moved forward and you ended up getting your formal training on aromatherapy, or?
I did,
Okay.
yeah. So my initial introduction to it, as I'd mentioned, was more the interest in the fragrance part of it. I didn't have any interest, to be honest, in the bodywork part, and that was the key component. That's what's recognized by Health Canada. You need to have the formal training for bodywork. So it's a lymphatic drainage massage technique, and you integrate essential oils that are custom formulated for the client.
I love that. Well, this is where I will jump in as your client and say, this has been coming and having a treatment from you. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know it was a service that I had never heard of before. It wasn't familiar to me, but I'm always game to try things. And it's non-invasive. It's just it's more gentle than even just going for a basic massage. So I wasn't sure what to expect. I was blown away. I have not had my mind feel that clear.
Yeah.
Maybe ever. It was unbelievable. And I think it was at the event that you and I had met where you were doing just little 10-minute or something, mini sessions just to get people to try it out, which I think is brilliant on your part, because sometimes it's just hard to verbally explain this type of service because it just isn't as common as saying, hey, I'm going to go for a massage. Most people understand what that means when you say I'm going to go for a massage, but this wasn't anything I had ever heard of. And I'm very open to holistic wellness and try things. And I'm never scared to try something just in case it's something that might work. Right. And I was like, oh my word, is the 10 minutes up already at this mini session? I could stay here all day, which is why I immediately on the spot booked my full session to come to you at a later date. And I can't wait for my next one. And I've been saying that for a while because it's been a few months already since I've been to your studio. But anyway, so continue. I'm jumping in and now I'm like, oh, wow, I need to book my appointment here because I need to get in here again.
Well, that's good that it stayed with you. It makes an impact once you've experienced something like that. And that's kind of how I transitioned into the facial reflexology portion. I experienced something myself and it was enough to stay with me for a long period of time. As a memorable experience.
Right? Well, I'm going to share the video that was taken while I had my mini session. Someone took a video while I was there. I look ridiculous. I'm just sitting there getting this done to me because it was like you could put me into a, I don't want to use the word comatose state, but I was literally laying there and it was a busy environment we were in. It was loud and there was lots of women talking and people shopping and things going on. It wasn't the epitome of relaxation. I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't hear anything that was going on. I was just so relaxed. And people commented, I shared the video that day because I was like, this is hilarious. And people were like, I can't stop watching this. I'm just watching this and I'm like relaxed as I'm watching your session take place. So I will share it on my Instagram stories again. I'll go hunt for it. Because I was like, this is crazy. I wouldn't have believed it had I not experienced it for myself, how relaxed it made me feel.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to offer the mini sessions is you really truly just have to experience it to understand for yourself. It's different for everybody, but to be able to put it into words and explain, to see it, it's just such a sensory experience. It's personal. You have to try it.
So once then you started taking your formal training and you finished your training and you realized that there was going to be this hands-on approach to the business that you never thought you ever wanted to even start in the first place. How did you then go about taking the pieces of, because you're taking formal training for aromatherapy and this hands-on approach. They're not at all telling you how to start your business or what to do with it. You're just getting certified. And from there, you get to just go do with it what you will, right? I'm sure some people take that training and go work in other businesses.
For sure.
Not everybody's taking that training and saying, I'm going to start my own business, right? So how did you then decide that this was the direction? Like, how did Bobe Beauty how did that come out of this formal training now?
So once I got into the training with the hands-on, I still remember my hands were shaking. I've never been so nervous about something.
Did you have to practice the training on people while you were taking your training?
While we're doing the course.
Yeah, okay.
And then you have to do 30 full case studies of full sessions after. And then exams and assignments as well.
Right.
But after starting to work with people in person, you realize that's what it's about. It's the people.
It's the connecting.
It has nothing to do with anything about the skin, a human body. It's the personal connection and what's going on in their life.
Right.
It's a much greater thing. So I was like, I'm sold.
I'm in. Totally. Well, I love that because obviously in the business that I am in with events, that is my main goal, is to connect people. And it happens in many different ways dependent on what the event or the gathering or the get together looks like. But that is my purpose too. And that was one of the things that I have always loved in talking with you about this, is I love how you can see the connection of not only connecting with other people, but connecting with yourself happens in so many different ways. And There isn't a one size fits all for anybody. Somebody that might have had an experience doing something, somebody else's experience would be totally different. But that's what I think is so great about it. And then talking about it, you can help to figure out for yourself, what are the things for yourself that help you connect most to yourself and with other people. And maybe it's going for a service and going to Bobe Beauty. Maybe it's doing something else. Maybe it's having friends over for a cocktail party. There's like lots of different ways that connection helps you feel more like yourself. And that's what I love about what you do.
Well, and that's exactly it. It's how does a person feel like themselves, their best self. And nobody knows themselves better than themselves.
Right. And you sometimes can't know, like if you're feeling like you're in a place of feeling confused and you're maybe you have big decisions in your mind and you don't know what direction to go, or you're having complicated relationships in your life, and whatever the case may be, obviously every single human on a daily basis has many potential reasons why they wouldn't feel connected to themselves or feel maybe disconnected to the world and the people around them. And it's kind of learning those pieces of, oh, I just can't figure out what's wrong with me, to, you know what? I'm going to take a minute and I am going to, that's literally what's been on my mind this week, where I'm like, I need to go make an appointment at Bobe Beauty because that has made me feel the most connected to myself in something, versus, oh, I need to do X, Y, Z and see if that helps me feel connected. I already know that that's one area that I can do. Yeah. And that makes me feel more calm, knowing that I know those things about myself and I can go do that and I don't have to try to figure it out all on my own.
Exactly. And it's providing a time and space, and whether it's in the studio or for a person at home, if they know that there's a space or a surrounding that gives those elements, that they can receive that. That's really the key.
Yeah, absolutely.
Keeping it simple and not feeling that you have to do all the things, buy all the things. It's that less is more approach.
Totally. Oh, I love that. So how then did you, so you finished your formal training, how then did you actually start the business that you have now?
So I was working very part-time from my home at that time. I was working full-time. I was in the rail industry for 10 years.
Okay, so you had a full-time job,
I had a full-time
and this
job.
is what you were trying to like just grow on the side and try to do both and see what was happening.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So very opposite field, your day job to
Absolutely.
Your side job.
So yeah, it was very male-oriented, just the nature of the work, very physical, manual. I obviously wasn't fixing the rail cars, but I was doing all the other things. So for 10 years I was in that industry, and you learn a lot about yourself, and I'm naturally an observer, so you just take in all of the things as well.
Yeah.
And it made me realize what I was seeking. It wasn't that there was a good or a bad. It was for what I wanted for myself, and trying to navigate that space and find where I wanted to be.
Right. Oh, I like that. And sometimes being in the most opposite of circumstances can sort of naturally lead you to a place of, okay, sometimes it's easy to know what you don't want before you know what you want.
Yeah.
And that sounds about as opposite as it can come to what you're currently doing
yes.
right now. I did not know that about you. So how did you then transition from having a full-time job? What gave you the courage and the bravery to say, whoa, hey, I've got a nice steady paycheck right now. How am I going to move into this side business that's not certain, and now I have to grow this? What motivated that, and how did that finally come to a decision for you?
Someone else made it for me, in a way.
Okay. Do you want to dig into this?
So I was given notification that my position would be terminated.
Okay.
So it was corporate restructuring, and I decided to take that as my opportunity. I said to myself, there will never be another moment where I have this complete blank space to create what I've been dreaming about for 15 years.
Totally. Don't you find that as we get older too? Like I feel when you're younger and you're just out of high school where your life has sort of been structured for you for the last 13 years or however long you've been in like in a public school type of setting where you're kind of said this is what you have to do for the first many years of your life and then go on and be free and decide what you want to do after that. There isn't a lot of other moments in adult life, I don't find at least, that have those natural starting and beginning points. Like you finished high school and there's a natural break. Yeah. You have to make a decision. You can do whatever you want, and a lot of people have ideas of what you should be doing, or then you go into college and then you finish college and then there's another break of what should I be doing? But once you're an adult and you're working a job and you've gotten into your like rhythm, there isn't things that naturally just sort of happen to create those spaces of, okay, something is finishing and a new thing is starting. You either have to create that your own or take the signs that are coming at you, which you did in an unfortunate, probably didn't feel great at the time to be like, oh, wow, this wasn't my decision of losing my job, but
it was really a blessing. It was something that I knew was coming. And so I was prepared.
Right.
Emotionally.
Right.
And so it was actually a huge sense of relief that now I had complete freedom to do this.
Like
there was nothing holding me back, really.
Yeah.
And I'd been building the pieces in that time when I knew it was coming. So it was less of I was planning to do a part-time transition.
Gotcha.
Months before, and this just made it happen quicker, I guess.
Totally. So then how did you take the process then of having sort of more time kind of right aways of, because that's the hard part often about doing something on the side while you're working full time, right? Like how do you find the hours in a day? You want to grow it, but how do you find the hours in a day to do what it needs you to do because you just aren't dedicating, let's say 40 hours a week, whatever you call like a full-time traditional type of work week. It's hard to be putting in the hours, endless hours that are needed to grow a business. So is that how you sort of started using your time right away? Once you didn't have a day job to go to, you just immediately like, okay, I'm treating this as my full-time job?
I did. Yeah, that's how I treated it. The interesting thing, I thought it would be an easier transition, I guess. Because you've been thinking about it and pouring your energy into it for so long.
Telling yourself, if I only just had the time, this would be easy, right?
But in some ways, I find it's actually the opposite. So when you have your full-time job and you're so fueled that you're thinking about this other thing, especially if it's something that you're really passionate about, you do everything you can to fit in every tiny second because that's all you have, because you've got this job.
There's always a deadline of like, your time is going to run out, so do it now.
Yeah, so you have to seize every moment. Whereas now you've got this huge expanse of time.
Nowhere on our else earth to go. Here we are.
And you're like, oh, but I could do this. I could do that. Whereas when you have your job, you're like, you have your 8 hours of work time that's allocated that you're not going to be doing your side business or whatever it is. You've got family, personal life, everything else to fit in, and then your business. So you're very calculated and intentional with every little thing because the time was so minute.
That's such an interesting perspective, because I feel like that is in the top 5 problems of most entrepreneurs is time management.
Absolutely.
To figure out how to balance life when you don't have anybody breathing down your neck telling you have to do something. Like it's especially if you're, I mean, like you, I am the same way. Like we are one-man teams. There is not a team of other people around us within our own businesses. So there isn't even anybody else that's like keeping you on track necessarily. You kind of have to find those people in your life that are able to help keep you on track, and accountability partners if you want that, right? That is such an interesting perspective. I've never thought about it that way before. And I think that you're like wondering, how do we bottle up that feeling of feeling like we can create these like deadlines for ourselves the way your full-time job created a deadline for ourselves in order to be more productive in the amounts of time. Like think about how much we could get done if we were like being 40 hours a week concentrated and like productive concentrated, hey?
Well, exactly. Or even if it was those few hours that you had outside of your day job to grow your business,
Right.
you have to find the efficiencies.
Huh. My wheels are really turning here. I love that perspective. I love that. So once you started getting into the rhythm and the swing, so you were doing this out of your home, when you were doing it part-time, and then once you transitioned to growing it into a full-time business, how long were you in your home before you were like, oh wow, I need to have a studio space and kind of transition this out of my home?
So before I launched the business as Bobe Beauty, I was working out of my home. And then when I knew I wanted to brand as this and I had this completely different vision, I knew I couldn't be in my home.
Right.
So as Bobe Beauty, it's always been in a studio space.
Right. And it's an adorable studio space.
I
You've done
love it.
such a good job. It's just this tiny, charming little gem. It's so relaxing when you're in there, and you're in like a nice core, like downtown part of Saskatoon. And it feels like you're in the hub, except then you walk up into your little space and you don't hear anything, and it's quiet, and it's like everything has disappeared around you. You're like, how can this be? I feel like I should be hearing cars honking or people talking or something. Yeah. You've done a nice job of it feels like you're walking into like a luxury spa when you walk into your space. You've done a really nice job branding. Yeah. Setting up your space. So for people that are listening to this right now and hearing us talk about growing the business and hearing us talk about your salon, do you want to just talk about a little bit about what the experience is like from the time that somebody would be booking? I feel like people are going to be listening to this and being like, but I still don't quite understand what this actually is. Like, how does this work? How do I book? What do I do when I get there? What kind of treatment am I expecting here? So, I'll speak to myself as being a client. When, like, you walk in, you go in, you like are in your studio and you sit down and you just talked with me when I walked in first, right? I was just took off my jacket and just sat at your pretty desk that's off to the side in your little space there. And you just talked and you just asked me some very basic kind of questions just to kind of get a better idea of me.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a big part of it, is getting to know somebody as a person. During the first session, we talk about general health related questions, lifestyle related questions, just to know where a person's at.
Yeah.
And as well, if there'd be any contraindications in terms of service. So if somebody has a certain medical condition, are there certain things that I should be avoiding in terms of product or technique that wouldn't be a good fit for them?
Right. Just to keep it all above board.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then you, just like when you're going for a like massage, you were like, okay, I'm just going to step out of the room for a minute. And I laid down on your most comfortable bed. It was warm and laid there. And I was like, well, I could just lay here. Like nothing further would need to happen. You could just not come back in and I would just lay there and here, I won't be leaving for 8 hours. Yeah. But no, you did come in and the lighting was nice and dim, and you had blacked out the curtains, and it was nice and bright when I walked in to meet with you, but then you blacked out the curtains, and it just felt like there was literally like, it was like the world had stopped around us. It was just quiet, and you walked in and I was just like laying on this, I'll call it a massage bed. That's like the only way I can really describe it, right? It's just like a bed. And then you came in and did you put like something over my eyes? No, you didn't.
No.
I'm like, what? I don't even remember what happened. You have to explain it from here. I was already in a state of such relaxation. I don't even know what you did. Holiday season can feel so full, even with so many amazing things on the go. It just sometimes feels like too much. As a working mom, I often struggle to find the time and balance to cook healthy, home-cooked meals that will fuel my family and myself and not leave me feeling overwhelmed. It takes a lot of time to plan, shop, prep, and cook healthy dinners. I'll admit I was skeptical when I signed up for the Good Food Box. I had tried out a promo code that I had seen online, and I told myself I would just try one box to check it out. Well, 6 weeks later, I am hooked. From the first step of clicking to order and then receiving the fresh ingredients and step-by-step recipes, it has all been seamless and easy. My mind has been cleared from the daily struggle of what's for dinner and knowing that my meals will arrive on my doorstep each week unless I choose to skip a delivery, which, by the way, I can do as often as I want. We will be away for a little bit over Christmas, and I've already been able to skip the weeks that I need to, and I've skipped a few until the new year so that I'm ready to go. You can even cancel your subscription at any time. There's really no risk. There are so many recipe suggestions, or you can make it even easier, and I just let the team at Good Food decide what meals are going to come to me each week. They're curated, delicious, restaurant quality meals. And the best part is that my daughter, Cassidy, who's 11, has been able to make a lot of the meals by herself. I have come home after a day at work and she has been able to follow the amazing, colorful, easy to follow recipe cards and instructions. I cannot say enough good things about the Good Food Box. And as a special offer for Celebrating Simple Life, the podcast listeners, you can get $40 off your first box. Click the link in the show notes to receive your discount code and make the most of your time this holiday season. $40 off your first Good Food Box with the link in the show notes. Cheers to celebrating today.
Yeah, most people during their first session, it's kind of a combination of wanting to experience it and take it in and having to surrender because they're in such a state of relaxation.
Right.
So I would say my most common service would be a holistic facial. So it combines different techniques that are wellness-based. So we're balancing the body on the inside, which in turn will balance the skin. And for a session, I don't usually speak just because it's a person's time to relax. I don't want them to feel the obligation to carry on a conversation. If they have questions or need anything adjusted, by all means, it's a safe space to converse. But it's just taking that obligation out because the time and space is for them.
Well, and it's a rarity in a day that you are spending 90 minutes quiet.
Yeah.
Like that unto itself is like besides sleeping at night, I would go as far to say that I've never been in a situation where there's been 90 minutes of nothing else going on around me. Like no information is getting pummeled into my head.
Yeah.
I'm not having to make a decision. I'm not having to talk about anything. And for some people, they're probably listening being like, oh, wow, that sounds like torture. How do you do that? Which for me would be one of those people because obviously I'm a talker, but it was like you gave me permission to relax.
Just it.
That is what it felt like.
Yeah.
And like somehow it was, I know I can relax if I want to, but it was like I needed somebody else to say that it was okay to release the guilt that, oh, I should actually be going and running errands right now. I shouldn't be taking these 90 minutes to just relax for myself. How dare you relax for yourself? You know, that's what it felt like.
Yeah. And that I find that's very common, especially in the beginning. People, you can tell they're still thinking because they are thinking about all the things that they should be doing, could be doing.
Yeah. And it needed to be that length of time. I think that if I had gone for 60 minutes, I wouldn't have quite gotten to that place of, because it took me a while at the beginning to, like you said, let that stuff, those thoughts go where I could be like, okay, no, there is nothing that I need to deal with right now. Nobody needs me. Everyone's fine. There's no fires. Just relax. There's nothing you need to be doing, and you don't need to think about the 10 other stops you're making after this appointment. Doesn't matter right now. Just
Yeah.
right? But yeah, that I feel like that takes practice.
It
For
does.
someone like me, like that does not come naturally to me to not be forward thinking all the time. It's exhausting. But that's part of my personality and my nature. But I've come to realize that is something that I can help train in myself. I don't have to be that way, but I need the tools and the help from services like yours to train that in me a little bit.
And that's a big part of it as well. So just like you said, most people don't naturally function that way.
Yeah.
So they don't know how to feel that way outside of a certain context. So like you said, outside of sleep, when do we do that?
Yeah.
So to be able to feel what that feels like, feeling that state of going into it, coming out, feeling how you feel after. And after you've experienced that, it's easier to get back to a state or be comfortable getting back into a state like that.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, you're exactly right. I couldn't have predicted that I would feel that. I mean, I was assuming it was going to be relaxing based on what I knew the treatment was going to be, but I had no idea that it was going to actually make me feel relaxed just from head to toe, really.
Yeah.
Like it was just this like stillness that I felt, where it was just this calming energy through my whole entire body that just felt like the biggest deep breath and let go that you can kind of feel, and it felt comfortable doing it. Yeah. Wow. So what would you say that within your business is sort of one of the most rewarding parts for you, especially knowing that this wasn't kind of the way you saw life going for you? What would you say is the best part of having your studio and your business and meeting with different people every day?
It would be the connection and seeing those light bulb moments for people, seeing them relax and giving them the tools. It's just, it's really rewarding. The one-on-one personal interactions.
Yeah, that's great. Because, I'm sure I wouldn't have imagined that. But when you would go into formal aromatherapy training, all of those parts of that process wouldn't have crossed my mind either, of like, oh, wow, this is where this is going to lead. Yeah. Right? I love that. So have there been things from a business perspective? I know we're kind of jumping around talking business / self-care, all in one and the same, but have there been things within your business since you've launched Bobe Beauty and had your studio and you're out of your home and now you have overhead and expenses and you're running a business and you're trying to provide the services within your business as well as run the business, which are two separate things. And I think that sometimes gets confused to some people who either are or aren't entrepreneurs of, well, what do you mean running the business versus working in your business? Well, there's like so many things that take place to just have a business running. There's a reason why you see social media posts. Those don't just magically appear, right? Like those types of things have to happen. And those aren't paying the bills.
Exactly. Yeah.
But they're attempting to draw interest into your business and you're trying to connect and relate to people, but making a post on social media is not buying your groceries. So the service and the actual client is really the space where that comes in from. So you're trying to find that balance, right, in growing and making the time to have the service. And that's sometimes, I don't know about you, but as a juggle for me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what would you say for yourself is, I mean, I guess I'm asking a few questions here, like is something that's been challenging in that regard and something that you feel has been maybe easier since being out and not in your home? I know being in your home, that's what I do, is sometimes challenging as well. And I'm like, oh, maybe a space would be easier. And you kind of play that back and forth game with yourself, right?
Yeah. So in terms of the space, I felt the emotional attachment to my home. I wanted to kind of separate the personal and work part of it, especially when working with people so intimately. I wanted them to have a space that was just for them. I didn't want them to have to feel that they were coming into my space.
Right.
This was for them.
Right.
So to be able to separate that, there's the overhead that you said. So I mean, with that comes expense. But I haven't regretted it for a minute.
Oh, good for you.
I felt it was really important to be able to create that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially when your business is based around having people come to you, it is nice to just feel like, that your space matches what you're like putting out there and to not have to feel like, oh man, I quickly got to tidy up my house here. Let's quickly keep this organized because I've got somebody who needs to relax here, right?
Yeah, and I feel I can be more myself. It seems kind of strange that I wouldn't be myself in my own home. But this gives me a different kind of freedom.
I completely understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there for service and it has a very intentional purpose. So when I'm there, that's what we're there for.
That's right. Yeah. You have your business hat on and you're providing the service and you can be home and
have those other hats.
That's right. Yeah. 100%. Oh, I can 100% get that because that has been the biggest challenge working from home in the last 5 years for myself. I didn't always work from home, but for sure, where it's just so easy to Like if you've had a day and your house feels like it isn't sort of as tidy, or it's an explosion in there because you've been trying to get your kids and your family out the door, and you're like, oh, how am I supposed to relax when this is like all here? So then you spend your time where, not that you want to come home to a messy house either, but if you could just leave and like go to your office, you can kind of just out of sight, out of mind with those types of things. And that is a little bit of a juggle.
It is.
Especially if there are children involved.
Yes.
Yes. Because the way you and I met was at an event, and I always tie this back because of what I do for a living, and I feel like there's always a lot of misunderstanding sometimes still as to what an event planner does and what is an event. And I feel like a lot of people are at events and they don't actually realize they are at an event. Like when you go to a shopping party, you're at an event. That's what's happening. And it doesn't seem like you're at a big charity gala, if that's what people think of an event. Yeah. But events happen in so many different ways. And I, for years, have been such a strong believer in how bringing people together in person, not just on a digital platform, and that has its own time and place as well, but bringing people together in person in a variety of different ways is a really unique and cool way to grow your business no matter what industry you're in. There's always a way that something can happen in order to bring people together in a gathering event style way. So we met at this shopping event that we were at, that I was helping to organize with a bunch of different suppliers. So I know you do a lot of pop-up events and you go to markets and you're involved and you're like getting out there. It's hard sometimes as small businesses to figure out the right ways to be known.
It is. It's trial and error.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's so easy sometimes, especially because we're trying to wear all the hats. It's easy to think that somebody knows about your business because you're so in it all the time. How can they not know about about my business? Do you ever find that?
All the time.
Yeah. Where you're like, I always go back and forth. I'm like, okay, like, oh man, am I posting too much? Is this like just like berating people? And then I'll have somebody who's like knows me. Oh, are you still doing events?
Well,
I'm like, what?
I know I've posted things like several times, and it's like that sinking feeling. You're like, oh, I don't want to post. I've already posted a couple times about this.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be annoying. I don't want to be salesy. I don't want to just be in people's face. And then it's like, oh, I didn't even know you were doing that.
Yeah. Then your neighbor's like, what, you work for a living?
It's like, I thought everybody knew this.
I know.
No, nobody knows.
That's exactly it. And I feel like I hear that all the time from people. And I feel like we need to debunk this and actually just be... Nobody likes to feel like you're noticing people either unfollow you or something. Or sometimes I'll go and make a post and like shortly after the post goes out, all of a sudden I'll be like down some followers. Yeah. And because, I mean, I'm full transparency. I have an okay amount of followers, but I don't have so many that I'm like, I'm still noticing them number by number.
Yes,
right?
I'm the same.
And I do all my own social media, so I can't just remove myself from it. I have to see it. It's right in front of me. I can't pretend and put like a piece of tape on the top of my phone and not see what's there. But I've been really working at that and even using that as a I don't want to say a self-care tool because I feel like saying social media and self-care in the same sentence seems like controversial, but I've even been using that as a practice to not let that bother me. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter. I am not putting out what I'm putting out on social media so that people follow me. Yeah. That's an effect of what I'm putting out. Naturally, people follow because they are either interested or unfollow because they're not interested, and to each their own. I unfollow stuff all the time too. Like, it's no offense to anybody. Exactly. But I think that that's something where it's important to talk about it so that we all know, you and I right here, we both have had the same feelings about this and we've never talked about it before, you know, and now the world gets to hear this too, that those feelings of self-doubt are normal, but talking about it makes it feel less personal to yourself, that you're the only person on earth that has ever had someone unfollow them and nobody else can definitely understand how I'm feeling, right? Exactly. So what would you say, so back to this event piece then, what would you say for yourself have been ways that you've used being a part of events or markets, which are also events, and gatherings of any type to help that grow your business and to connect with people in a different way versus just using social media or just using your website or paying for advertising or whatever the case may be?
It's been a huge part of it for the positive. It allows me to have one-on-one personal interactions. So it's not necessarily a sales tactic, but just to get to know people, to be listening about things that are happening in the community with the people themselves. And really, an event, it's a gathering where people are coming for a common purpose.
Right.
So,
and generally they know who else is going to, I mean, you don't know who all the customers are going to be there, but you know who's all participating. When you're at a market or you're at a pop-up shopping event or something, you as a person going knows who the other businesses are, usually, that are a part of it. So you can kind of decide how that's going to align with your own business, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's been a big part of it too. Finding things that are in alignment with myself and my brand, because it's not one size fits all.
Totally. So do you feel that you are in a space of being able to very definitively say yes or no to things as they come up? Or is that sort of still like a bit of a figuring out limbo kind of piece when maybe you would either get approached or you would see something that you're like, oh, should I be a part of that, as your choice?
I'm probably at about 75%.
Okay.
To be completely honest. And that's only because my business has started to evolve a little bit more in terms of my offerings. So it's not just the service. And I've started creating my own products. So I found navigating that part of it is kind of that 25%.
Yeah.
It's more trial and error. There's still things that I will definitely be like, is this a good fit?
Right.
Some you just know.
Yeah. Some you have to try, and then at the end of
some
it,
you
you're
have to
like,
try.
oh boy, wow, that wasn't a fit. Or,
Yeah.
wow, I'm pleasantly surprised.
But for the most part, I find I'm quite intuitive as to what would be a good fit, what's not, and being able to say yes or no.
Yeah, totally. So tell me a little bit about some of the new products that you're offering. I know when I was there for my appointment, I bought this adorable soap that I need to get one for myself. I was gifting it. So I haven't actually tried it, but just looking at it, I was like, oh, wow, it was like a pyramid shape. It was triangle, and you could hold it super easy, and I had never seen a full pyramid-shaped soap before that. It just looked so pretty.
It's pretty and it's practical. So when I first started the studio, I started working with small makers. So they're all women-owned, Canadian-based businesses that are similar mindset and alignment with what Bobe Beauty is.
Yeah.
Also the aesthetic.
Yes. Yeah.
And the products themselves are very curated. So if I don't use the products myself, I'm not going to be carrying them in the studio. So the soap that you had mentioned actually is handmade in BC. And over the past few months this year, then I've started delving back into creating products myself again. So I've launched 3 natural perfume oils, and a week ago just launched lip balm.
Yes, that's so exciting.
It is.
I love that. And you have these adorable little testers that I've received when I've been at different events, just to be able to try it first and see how you feel towards it and how it smells on your own skin. And I love that. Which is a whole nother avenue to your business, because perfumes don't magically make themselves while you're doing a treatment on somebody. So there's a whole other line of like ways that you're spending your time.
Exactly.
Hey? Yeah.
And that's been really interesting for me to kind of navigate that, because it takes 2 different kind of approaches in a way.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
A whole different hat on.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I love that. So before we finish today, I could talk with you for hours. We'll have to do another one because I have so many other things I want to ask you. But because you are so on the line of self-care, and that's like a big part of what your business offerings allow for people, I always ask my guests the same questions because I like to hear sort of the little inner answers of like what's going on in their life. So what is one way for yourself that you start your day, set the tone for your day when you wake up in the morning?
Music.
Oh, good answer.
I didn't even have to think about
Okay,
that one.
and in what capacity? Like is that what your plays on your like alarm to wake you up, or you mean you wake up and you just are like, we're playing music in the house?
Yes,
Okay.
waking up and listening to music.
Okay, and is it like go, like we're dance party?
Depends on the day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how does your daughter feel about the music? Does that help her get ready for the day?
She is also a music lover.
Yeah.
My husband's a musician.
Okay. So it all runs in the blood.
we have lots of music going all the time, but we have different tastes. But she's also open to
Right, you can all accept
listening to
each
new
other's
things.
eclectic styles and tastes. That's good. I like that. That's a good start for the day. My kids often want to listen to music. My husband and my kids love having music playing. And I love music. I'm very musical. I like music. But music and I have a very interesting relationship when I'm in a moment of feeling like we're trying to get something done. Then I almost feel like it's like another voice in the room, and it almost adds a sense of stress to my mind versus the music being relaxing. I'm like, let me think. I have to have it quiet in here because I'm trying to think. So turn the music off, and it drives the rest of my family crazy.
I'm the same way. So it depends on the task. If it's something that I need to concentrate on, anything that's like reading, it has to be like very quiet.
Yeah, like people that used to like study with music playing. I'm like,
couldn't understand
I'm
that.
trying to understand because all I hear is the
Earplugs,
music.
please.
Yes, totally. So besides the music, are you a coffee drinker? What's your well, especially on these freezing cold days, what's your hot, I won't even ask if it's a cold beverage. What's your hot beverage?
It would be medium or dark roast coffee with 1 cream.
Okay. Do you have like a favorite go-to place in Saskatoon that's like your jam, or do you drink coffee at home, or what's your go-to?
We do pour over coffee at home.
Oh, nice.
I don't go out too often for
sounds
coffee.
Fancy. Yeah.
No, it's actually simple. That was what drew me to
That's
it. Was the
okay.
simplicity.
I like that. That sounds delicious. Coffee and I are best friends. What is something, so you leave your house, you're off to your studio or running errands, whatever you're doing in a day, what is something you always have in your purse that maybe somebody else wouldn't have in their purse?
Somebody else wouldn't.
Not necessarily that somebody else wouldn't. You can say whatever you want. I've had some hilarious answers on this one, so I'd like to hear.
It's a good question.
Maybe you're just a basic purse girl. You just have the essentials.
I am pretty basic.
I
actually downsized my purse so that I wouldn't have a lot of stuff in
Good
it.
girl. That right there is a perfect answer. That means that must be very organized.
I feel most things. There's a time and a place for everything. So
yeah, good for you. So you offer self-care services to others, but how do you experience self-care? What is something that you do on a regular or as you can basis in order to feel more like yourself? I'm assuming that do you do your treatments on yourself?
I try to do as much as I can for myself at home. But it's important to seek the assistance of others as well. So especially this past month, I've been receiving services myself.
Good for you. And
because there are things that we can't do for ourselves.
Yeah, it just doesn't offer that same level of being able to actually check out and relax, right? It's a time and a place.
Yeah, there's different connection that we have. So things that we do for ourselves, it's just as important.
So what would be one service that's your favorite that you do? That you go do, that somebody else does for you? Like you're like a massage, or are you
I usually go for massage if it's something, just because I like the hands-on.
Yeah.
I don't always, like, this again sounds kind of strange, I don't always do physical touch.
Right.
But a massage, that's kind of my go-to because...
Well, yeah, I agree. I do too. Sometimes you just need to feel more aligned.
Yeah.
So lastly, just leaving our guests today and they're hearing all of these cool things that you're up to, what would you say for yourself is one piece of advice that you would leave our listeners today that's maybe something that you think about on a regular basis that helps you feel focused and grounded, or something that somebody has told you, or something that you talk to yourself and tell yourself in order to feel like you're not alone and can stay connected and motivated and keep on doing what you're doing?
Again, staying with the simplicity. It was something that I read earlier this year, and immediately I was just like, yes. And it's just that everything is important and nothing is important. And it's just getting back to that being in the moment.
I love that. That's great. It is. It's just so easy to let things build even on a daily basis to a point of feeling like you're just so flustered by the end of the day that there's like little things. And sometimes I think we just have to like give ourselves permission to do the things that we just feel we need to do in the moment and not say, well, this is middle of the day. Why would I stop and just sit and drink my coffee for a minute?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it just kind of gives that perspective. It's like, is this really a big deal?
Right.
In the grand scheme of things? Like, if I'm looking back on this moment or in my life, really, is it that important?
Right.
Or it also flips the switch to, well, this is important. I can make a difference.
Right.
This is meaningful. And it could be something small. Like, it doesn't have to be a grandiose thing. It's those simple moments.
I love that. Oh, thank you for your chat today. This is just so enlightening. I love chatting with you. So I will tag all of the wonderful things happening at Bobe Beauty in the show notes. So go follow her on Instagram and check out what's happening on her website and her services, and go book an appointment. If that's one gift you give yourself this Christmas, go book an appointment, because I plan to. So thank you. This has been lovely.
Oh, thank you so much, Kimberly.
This show would not be possible without you, my incredible listeners. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to Celebrating Simple Life wherever you listen to podcasts. If you really want to make my day, leave a review. Each week, I will pick one review that will be read on the show, and the person who left that review will receive a special gift from me. Cheers to Celebrating Simple Life.